Okay, what's going on, guys? Today we're going to be going over what actually happens after a cheat day. We got a ton of numbers on the board here. Don't get scared. I'm going to go through it all and explain it. Probably wave my arms around a lot to make it interesting or something like that. But first off, before we get into that, I want to talk about cheat days. And we use the word cheat and cheat day in the title because people use it. You probably use it. You've heard other people use it. I don't like the term. I think it's I don't think food should be I don't think you should be cheating when you eat food. I don't think you should be cheating when you overeat on your diet. I think you overate or you binged or something like that, but I don't think we want to talk about it like there's some sort of moral problem with overeating or eating the wrong foods. And I think you got to get away from that because I think the language you use matters. But we used it today just because people use it, and I think you're going to relate to it, so that's why we did use it. But a little bit of background, what we're going back to is about 2 weeks ago, and we're going, these are all my numbers, and I'm going to explain why the numbers matter and why we're using them, but also they don't mean everything. But just a little bit of background, about 2 weeks ago, if you check my story highlights on Instagram, if they're still there, I don't know when you're actually watching this, but I took people through an Instagram story where I chronicled a Friday of overeating, basically showed them MyFitnessPal, took them through it. I ordered a pizza at one point. I was eating some candies and stuff like that. It was a Friday night. I wouldn't call it a binge because I was kind of totally in control of it, but I did eat, 5,500 calories in a night, which is a number that actually scares people, but a lot of people responded to it in a way that they watched it, and I think a lot of people saw themselves in that, oh man, I've had a Friday night like that before, but I don't count it. So these are actually real numbers, and what I want to show you is what happens when you eat that much. And people ask me this question a lot, what happens, how much weight do I gain when I have a cheat day? Or how much, I overate and what's gonna happen? It depends on how much you overate. So important to understand, what we do know is a 3,500 calorie deficit, whether it's over a day or over a week, whether it's accumulated over time, or a 3,500 calorie surplus. Again, if you do it in a day, which is kind of pretty hard, but probably almost hit it here. Or whether it's done over time, which is the way most people would do it, that's either going to create a pound up or a pound down. If you do half of that, 1,750, you're going to be half a pound up, half a pound down. So what happens after the cheat day or the refeed day or the overeating or the birthday party you went to depends on just how much and depends on kind of what you've been doing elsewhere. So this is the week before. So this is the last weigh-in I had before here. So we had an average weigh-in of 196.4 right here. This is the week before. And we had an average calorie intake of 2113. So this is, I believe, my lowest weigh-in on average so far. And this is actually, these numbers are actually probably going to implicate a little bit more as we go down to the bottom here and into next week. But what you see here is 55.64 on that big night. I ordered a personal pizza at 1:30 a.m. I stayed up late working. I had some M&Ms and banana chips. It was kind of a weird night, but it added up to this, and I counted every bit. So this is actually a really, really, I would say, very accurate number. So what you see is after this night, I actually went up to 198. So I gained about 3.4 pounds in a night. It stayed up. Now these are interesting numbers, and if you were following me at the time or right now or whatever, you'd know that I was dealing with some constipation. The fact that the numbers continued to go up was actually kind of weird. Usually you would see it drop a little bit and then drop again, but I believe the reason why they kept going up was because usually I would go to the washroom the day after I eat like this. And the reality is I actually didn't have a proper washroom stint until about 10 minutes ago, which is probably about 2 weeks after this all happened. So it's not like I hadn't gone to the washroom, but we're dealing with the fact that I was basically stuffed up for here. So usually you'll see a drop off after here. Now the reason, so let's look at this day for one, 5,500 calories. So if we're thinking my metabolism is probably roughly around 2,800 calories. So if we're going to take this and minus, what we've got is, let's do some quick math here. I was in a surplus in one day, an isolated day of about 2,800 calories. So you could argue that in one day, if we were going to just take that one day and not consider anything else, that I probably gained 0.75 pounds of fat. Like I gained 3.5 of like water and food weight and even more as we went along here. But it can be argued that, okay, in that one night, you probably gained around 0.75 of body fat. And the reason why that's important is because like at least you understand how the numbers actually work. And that's why we're doing this, because the numbers don't tell you everything, but in theory, they can actually give you some guidance on what to expect. So, and the problem is that, yeah, okay, so I gained 0.75. Let's just say that's actually right. And I think that's an accurate way to go about it. For one, at least it cools your head from thinking that you gained all this, because what you see here is it just kind of falls off. So my average weigh-in with all of these numbers considered was 197.5. If I took my weight and I took these ones, which are like kind of the numbers of like bloating and water weight, so I just kind of took these away and I took these numbers, 197.5 to 196.25, and if we were gonna average these out, we'd be closer to 197 or a little bit below, which would kind of give us a number that's like, okay, you might have gained a little bit of weight during that time, but as we go along here, it's already back to normal. Like what we're dealing with is like, it took about a week and all of a sudden my average is playing out the way it was. So how much weight did I gain? It's really, really hard to say, but it kind of did create a lag in my loss. Like I would say it kind of slows things down for about a week. Now, if I had eaten a lot more of that, which believe it or not is actually possible, like we could see a stall in my average weight for up to like 1 to 2 weeks or something like that. So the key is that I always tell people like on an average night, like that's pretty high. A lot of people though, they'll go over there, like they'll go to a birthday party, you'll go to a birthday party, you'll go to something, you'll eat like 3,000 calories. You'll have some pizza, you'll have drinks, you'll go out, you'll booze, whatever, like you'll do your thing. And you'll hit like you were like, maybe your metabolism is actually closer to like 2,000 or something like that, whether you realize it or not. You had 3,500 calories, so you're 1,500 over on that day. You're talking about maybe you gain half a pound that day. If you were in if you were on a plan that's setting a deficit on a daily basis of like 500, and maybe you're losing a pound a week, maybe like that, like maybe it's half a pound a week. The truth is that as this washes away over the course of 3, maybe 4 days, if you go right back to your plan right after all this happens, there's a chance that by the time the water weight is gone, that the fat that you gained in that one day going over could already be lost by the time that the bloating is all gone, if that makes sense. Because if your plan is to lose a pound of fat a week and you wait 3 or 4 days and just get right back to your plan right afterwards, which I didn't really, you could argue that by the time you're actually through this, that your weight is back to normal and you've lost the fat that you gained. So that's like how fast in theory that you could actually outpace the rate at which your body loses the water and bloating. So just some perspective, like to add an actual pound or 2 of fat, you gotta eat a ton. The problem isn't really what you ever do in one night. This would be a really, really high night. What you want to avoid is letting this bleed into this, where you have like 3 or 4 days of hardcore eating. What most people will do is let a weekend like something like this with some higher numbers, and then they just give up and all of a sudden they're just going back to old habits. That's when you got to worry about what's going to happen, because it's what happens in 2 or 3 days on a cheat or like a weekend away or vacation or something like that is so small in respect to like your like long-term goals, that the fact we're even talking about this is part of the problem, that you really don't have to worry about what's going on here. What you have to worry about is what actually happens afterwards, because even though you see these numbers after a cheat and you're worried and you're like, oh my God, and it's kind of crazy to see, like it's right back down, like right after that. So as long as you go back to where you were, you're gonna see that happen. However, if you don't, you're gonna just start accumulating weight like you used to, and like you'll go down a bad trend. So the point of all this was just to give you some numbers and some data. It's like numbers are never perfect, but it does give you some ideas on what actually happens. I think understanding 3,500 calorie surplus and 3,500 deficit for adding a pound of fat or losing a pound of fat is important to understand, because you get some perspective on, I ate 3,000 calories yesterday, my metabolism is 2. Like, nothing really bad happened, and nothing's really stopping you from creating a deficit still during that week by just getting right back on your plan. That's the thing I would impart on you, is just get back on track, and probably stop giving yourself a cheat day for the sake of it, because it's basically you excusing yourself to go eat crap for no reason. And there's no problem with eating crap or low quality foods necessarily at a limited level. For me, it's more I would want to limit those. I used to do that on a weekly basis, something probably like that, and probably no one even saw it. What I would tell you is save this stuff for the birthday parties, save this stuff for the nights that you want to, don't save it for, I have a cheat day on Saturday for no freaking reason, and it's just let's just all eat all the crap. It's there's a right time to have birthday cake, and Tuesday night on your own probably isn't the right time to have birthday cake. The right time to have birthday cake is at a party. Start thinking contextually about why you're actually doing that, and get away from the idea that every Saturday is a cheat day because somehow it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, but start thinking about context in terms of when you're deciding on what you're eating, and also just stop thinking that this is a problem and get back on track, and you'll be seeing the weight go down right away. If you have any questions, there's a lot going on there, pop them in the comments. If you like the video, subscribe. We're gonna be coming back with a lot more. Yeah, that's cheat day and overeating, and what can actually happen in terms of one day of overeating. And the answer is, honestly, not much if you get back on track quick.